There are screenings in Hollywood's long history that were never meant to stay in the public memory, nights when the projected image behaved just a little too strangely, when the air inside the auditorium felt heavier than it should, and when audiences reacted in ways no marketing report or studio briefing has ever been able to clarify. These were not mishaps, nor random cases of nerves before a highly anticipated release. They were quieter, deeper disturbances, moments where something in the room shifted, without leaving a mark, without triggering an alarm, yet unmistakably felt by those who were present. Some premieres ended with rows of viewers rising in unison, pale and unsettled, with no clear sense of what pushed them to leave. Others resulted in murmurs of nausea, flashes of pressure behind the temples, or the uncanny certainty that a scene had played out differently than what later audiences would see. Projectionists often swore the print was stable, even as patrons insisted the brightness pulsed or the audio pressed into their chests like an invisible weight. A handful of screenings even produced testimonies about images that should not exist, reflections in glass, outlines caught in the corner of the eye, or micro moments that flickered too quickly to describe, yet left behind an undeniable trace in memory. Studios moved fast after these incidents. Sound mixes quietly altered, color timing rebalanced overnight, and certain reels replaced without acknowledgement. But the archives hold fragments, memos, private notes, projection logs, documents that all point to a shared truth. In the earliest moments of their exhibition, a handful of sci-fi films triggered reactions that no standard explanation could contain. Tonight, we revisit those nights, we unseal those accounts, and we trace the anomalies that flickered only once during the very first time these films ever touched the screen. Fact 1. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1977, original premiere cut. The earliest public showing of Close Encounters of the Third Kind left viewers unsettled in ways that extended far beyond the film's narrative. During the opening desert sequence, several attendees felt a wave of cold sweep across the theater so sharply defined that some believed the auditorium's ventilation had malfunctioned. Yet staff confirmed the temperature remained constant throughout the showing. As the film progressed into its iconic household disturbances, viewers began noticing movement in their peripheral vision. During the kitchen flickering light scene, multiple people claimed they saw brief dark shapes skittering across the corners of the room, shapes that vanished when they tried to look directly. Projectionists could find no reflective surfaces or lighting anomalies that could explain the effect. The most controversial recollection came from the final approach to Devil's Tower. Several attendees insisted a blurry human-like figure appeared near the base of the formation, an indistinct silhouette that seemed to linger for a heartbeat before dissolving into the landscape. This figure exists in no archived print or work print of the film. Some described the moment as a preview of an unseen sequence, a fragment from a version of the movie that was never completed. Columbia Pictures made swift recuts days later, altering color timing and adjusting specific audio sequences. Publicly, these changes were framed as pacing improvements. Privately, internal memos referenced audience distress events occurring during the premiere. Those who witnessed the original cut maintained that it had a presence, an eerie atmospheric quality that the later revisions smoothed away. Fact 2. The Matrix Reloaded, 2003, first digital premiere. The first official digital projection of The Matrix Reloaded was meant to demonstrate the future of theatrical exhibition, yet the premiere produced anomalies that left technicians baffled. During the freeway chase, several attendees noticed an elusive frame-doubling effect, an impression of duplicated movement appearing for just a fraction of a second. The booth monitors showed a perfectly stable feed, making the phenomenon all the more inexplicable. Viewers described it as the image slipping sideways before instantly correcting itself. In the architect's chamber, an even stranger experience unfolded. Many audience members reported a disconcerting sense of knowing entire stretches of dialogue ahead of time. The déjà vu was so strong that some said they mouthed lines moments before the characters delivered them. Projectionists noted a faint ambient flicker in the room during the White Room sequences, something not present in the digital source file. Audio irregularities were reported as well. A handful of viewers claimed to hear an anticipatory echo, a ghost of dialogue that seemed to arrive just before the actual line. Sound technicians insisted the theater's system was performing flawlessly, yet multiple testimonies described the same uncanny sensation. Warner Brothers quietly re-encoded the digital file after the premiere, ostensibly to correct color variations. Insiders, however, suggested the revisions targeted a set of high-frequency peaks that behaved unpredictably in large rooms. The premiere version has never resurfaced, and those who attended maintain that it conveyed a subtle instability, something woven into the projection that disappeared after the final encode. Fact 3. Interstellar 2014 Early IMAX Premiere Print. The preliminary IMAX showcase of Interstellar produced reactions that have since become quiet legend among the technicians who were there. This early print, screened before the final audio refinements, delivered a sensory impact that viewers struggled to put into words. During the chase through the cornfields, several attendees reported an abrupt swelling of pressure in their torsos, as if the bass had synchronized directly with their breathing. IMAX engineers later insisted that the subsonic levels were properly calibrated, yet eyewitnesses maintained the vibration felt unlike anything they had previously encountered in a theater. The wormhole sequence magnified the effect. People described the ceiling lights bending inward at the edge of their vision, creating the unsettling illusion that the room was subtly compressing into the screen. A few viewers claimed they glimpsed a face-like ripple on the wormhole's surface, blurred, spectral, and impossible to locate in any existing version of the film. Projectionists dismissed the reports, though their logbook contains a note referencing momentary field distortion, with no technical explanation attached. The most unnerving responses came during the Tesseract scene. Several audience members experienced intense déjà vu, saying they could anticipate upcoming moments before they played. One insisted he had already seen this cut, even though he acknowledged it was his first viewing. When pressed, he struggled to describe what was different, only that the sequence felt raw, louder, and somehow closer. After this screening, IMAX replaced the print and modified part of the low-frequency mix. No studio memo acknowledged the unusual audience reports. Those present that night still believe the early version carried an unintended resonance, one that vanished once the final adjustments were made. Fact 4. Tron 1982 Limited Early Screening. The limited early preview of Tron offered viewers a glimpse of cinematic technology that was decades ahead of its time, but the screening also triggered an array of reactions that remain unexplained. As the film dove into its neon-drenched digital world, several audience members reported difficulty focusing on the light cycle sequence. They said the motion looked too fluid, almost unnatural, like it slipped past the eye's ability to track it. Some felt a momentary vertigo, as if the screen expanded outward in a way the theater could not contain. Projectionists maintained that the reel played perfectly, yet a number of viewers noticed brief flickers along the edges of objects inside the grid shapes, blurring or shifting angles for a frame or two before snapping back. These anomalies are not present in any archived print. More curious were reports of a dry, metallic taste in the mouth during certain sound pulses, a sensory detail that matched across multiple testimonies. A more eerie account surfaced from those seated near the screen. During the sequence inside the MCP core, several insisted they spotted a humanoid outline inside the red glow, a presence that did not match any character animation and has never been located in the film's original cells or production materials. Disney technicians later reviewed the premiere print, but found nothing unusual beyond what internal memos described as minor spectral inconsistencies. Some attendees described a diffuse sense of being observed, not by the characters, but by something in the negative space of the digital environment itself. Though no subsequent screening reproduced the effect, those who witnessed it believe the early print carried an experimental sharpness, an intensity of color and contrast that revealed artifacts later smoothed away. Fact 5. Event Horizon 1997 First Public Premiere. At its first public showing, Event Horizon left a deeper mark than its later cult reputation suggests. Before the studio imposed heavy edits, the early cut was screened to a select audience, and the physical responses it triggered remain a point of whispered discussion. Attendees described a piercing sensation behind the eyes during the gravity drive's activation, sharp, metallic, and synchronized with the pulsing light. It felt less like sound and more like static bleeding directly into the nervous system. During the initial nightmare montage, several people left abruptly, not because of gore, but due to an abrasive scraping noise they claimed emanated from the walls rather than the speakers. Projection staff confirmed nothing of the sort was present in the room's audio channels. Some also noted that the auditorium appeared dimmer than normal, almost as if the screen's illumination was being partially swallowed by an unseen layer. The most persistent memory from that night centers on a still, human-like figure glimpsed deep in one of the ship's corridors, visible for just a breath before disappearing. This figure is absent from every verified frame of the film. Editors insist the scene never existed, yet early viewer reports describe it with remarkable consistency. When Paramount ordered more than 20 minutes removed, they publicly attributed it to pacing concerns. Behind closed doors, some involved with the screening suggested the cuts were intended to eliminate whatever caused the intense reactions, sensations too invasive to ignore. To this day, stories about the lost premiere cut circulate among those who swear that version of Event Horizon possessed a suffocating, oppressive aura that the theatrical edition never replicated. Fact 6. War of the Worlds, 2005, Early Industry Screening. The early industry screening of War of the Worlds delivered a set of reactions that no one involved expected, even considering the film's aggressive sound design. During the moment the first tripod emerges from beneath the street, several attendees noted a sudden compression in the atmosphere, an internal tightening in the chest, like a low-frequency shockwave had passed directly through them. While Spielberg's team built the sequence around powerful bass cues, the effect audiences felt that night seemed disproportionate to anything coming from the speakers. Projection logs from the event describe a strange flutter in the rear right audio cluster that appeared only from the auditorium floor, not on the booth monitors. A few guests stood abruptly during the emergence scene, unsteady, convinced the room had shifted in angle for a split second. Some reported nausea or a sense that the walls were tilting inward, though the screening room passed every environmental check. Most unsettling were reports of a momentary double image during a shot inside the alien tripod's holding cage. Multiple viewers claimed they saw a faint second exposure peeking through the frame just for a fraction of a second, an outline not present in any known version of the film. Sound mixers later revealed they slightly reduced the sub-bass load after the screening, officially for clarity, though insiders suggested the change was meant to soften an unpredictable acoustic resonance. A few attendees described an emotional spike, a burst of panic during the evacuation scenes, followed by an odd, momentary blankness, as if their attention dropped out for a heartbeat. No equipment failures were ever documented, leaving the early reactions unresolved. To those present, the premiere print carried a force, an auditory weight that the final cut no longer exhibits. Fact 7. Solaris, 2002, Steven Soderbergh. The first screenings of Soderbergh's Solaris provoked an array of reactions that seemed strangely psychological, even among hardened industry viewers. The minimalist set design of the space station, with its sterile corridors and muted reflections, triggered an uncanny sensation among attendees, the feeling that they had seen the place before. Many described a wave of déjà vu that struck them without warning, as though they were revisiting a memory they could not place. One viewer claimed he knew exactly what the next camera movement would be, despite never having watched the film. The premiere also suffered an audio anomaly, unlike anything reported afterward. During a quiet exchange between Clooney's character and a crew member, the sound momentarily thinned, not softer, but flatter, as though the air had drained from the room. Projection readings stayed perfectly normal, leaving technicians puzzled. The strangest reports emerged from the first appearance of Raya. Several viewers insisted her expression differed subtly, older, more haunted than in later showings. Some said her eyes appeared momentarily unfocused, as if she were aware of the audience. No archivist or editor has ever located a frame supporting this memory. A few attendees reported feeling watched from above, claiming the shadows in the upper corners of the auditorium deepened unnaturally during the most intimate scenes. This sensation vanished instantly once the lights came back on. Fox made quiet refinements to the lighting consistency and sound smoothness after the preview. To those who witnessed the premiere, the initial cut of Solaris felt like a dream slipping into consciousness, a version that could not hold its shape once exposed to the world. Fact 8. The Abyss, 1989. Early showings of The Abyss revealed the kind of audience responses that were never officially addressed but remain etched into backstage accounts. The film's underwater aesthetic, cool hues, dim lighting, and layered ambient rumbles created an immersive mood that several viewers found disturbingly physical. During the descent sequences, attendees seated near the back described the sensation of pressure building inside their heads, as though the deep-sea environment were extending into the theater itself. The liquid pseudopod scene produced intense reactions. People claimed the tendril's surface seemed to bend unpredictably, extending past the screen's borders for just a fraction of a second. Projectionists checked the alignment and found no deviation, but eyewitnesses insisted the effect felt out of phase, as if the image momentarily existed somewhere between two dimensions. Even more puzzling were accounts of a sudden cold wave sweeping across the auditorium during the trench dive, something that could not be reproduced or explained. The HVAC logs registered no temperature drops. Still, those who felt it described the chill as coordinated with the on-screen movements of the alien craft. During Lindsay's near-death sequence, several viewers fainted or stumbled out of the theater, reporting layered whispers hidden beneath the audio. These murmurs are absent from every known version of the film, and sound designers deny inserting any subliminal elements. Fox made small alterations to the film's sonic texture after the premiere, although no statement ever linked these changes to the reported incidents. To those who were there, the initial cut of The Abyss possessed a density, a palpable weight that the final release softened. Fact 9. Contact 1997. The initial screening of Contact produced reactions that went far beyond simple awe at its cosmic scale. During the film's long opening pullback, the one drifting from Earth into the depths of space, several attendees reported a sudden hollowness in their chest, as if their breath had momentarily caught. Some likened the sensation to the quiet drop felt in an elevator, but slower, smoother, and unmistakably real. Technicians monitoring the room found no fluctuations in air pressure, yet numerous viewers insisted something shifted in the theater at that exact moment. As the story progressed into the discovery of the encoded transmission, audience members mentioned an odd pattern in the sub-bass frequencies, a rhythmic vibration that felt deliberate, almost like a sequence. Sound engineers present that night said the levels were perfectly normal, though their internal logs later noted unexpected fluctuations in the infrasound range, fluctuations never seen again after the premiere. The most widely reported anomaly occurred during a quiet inspection scene of the transport pod. Multiple viewers swore they saw a faint form reflected on the metallic surface, a shape too human to dismiss as optical noise, but far too brief to identify. This reflection is absent from every modern or archival print. Editors reviewing the occurrence insisted no such composite ever existed. Several attendees left the screening, citing headaches, dizziness, and an unshakable sense of being scrutinized by something beyond the screen. Warner Brothers quietly refined the sound design shortly after the premiere without commenting on the audience reactions. Those present that night still believe the early version of Contact carried an unintentional signal, a resonance that vanished when the studio finalized the mix. Fact 10. Sphere 1998. Early previews of Sphere were intended to gauge audience reactions to its psychological tension, but the screenings produced anomalies far beyond normal feedback. The dark, reflective surfaces of the underwater habitat created a visual environment that several viewers described as oppressive. During the Sphere's first appearance, attendees noted a pressure shift inside their inner ears, similar to descending rapidly in a plane despite no change in theater acoustics. Things escalated during the hallucination sequences. Many reported hearing a sharp, metallic ring that didn't align with the film's soundtrack. Others felt a cold ripple sweep across the room, timed perfectly with the Sphere's on-screen pulsations. Theater staff investigated the HVAC system, but found no malfunction. The most perplexing moment came from conflicting memories of a specific shot. Dozens of viewers claimed they saw a faint human reflection staring back from the Sphere's surface, distinct, unsettling, and unmistakably intentional. Yet no such reflection appears in any test cut, theatrical version, or archived material. Editors insisted no placeholder images were ever inserted. After these screenings, the studio made minor adjustments to the sound mix and removed certain low-frequency rumbles meant to enhance tension. Official documentation framed these changes as routine refinement. Privately, sound mixers allegedly referred to the edits as stabilizing unpredictable resonance. To this day, the premiere version of Sphere is considered lost, and those who experienced it swear that the film once contained a visual echo that vanished from all future releases. Fact 11. The Black Hole 1979. When The Black Hole debuted, its ambitious visual effects were expected to spark discussion. Instead, the premiere produced a wave of sensory disturbances that caught everyone off guard. The deep reds and swirling energy patterns that defined the film's aesthetic created a strange, hypnotic pull. Viewers in multiple seating areas reported feeling momentarily off balance during the long orbital shots, as though the theater itself were leaning toward the screen. This was most pronounced during the reveal of the singularity, where several attendees felt an odd tightening around their temples. Projection logs from the venue mention a faint shimmer sliding across the frame during the final vortex sequence, a distortion the booth technicians could not reproduce on their equipment. Audience reactions were even stranger. A few people insisted they saw distorted faces flickering inside the vortex, shapes that looked almost human but vanished too quickly to confirm. These images do not exist in any frame of the film as preserved today. Near the climax, the score briefly shifted in pitch, producing an uneasy, wavering effect. Audio engineers who reviewed the incident later found no fault in the playback system. What complicates the matter is that several viewers claimed the pitch irregularity occurred before the corresponding visual cue on screen, giving them a brief anticipatory chill. Disney quietly rebalanced parts of the soundtrack and stabilized several sequences after the premiere, though no official statement acknowledged the audience reactions. Those in attendance remained certain that the premiere print held something atmospheric, something embedded in the audio-visual interplay that subsequent edits smoothed away. Fact 12. THX 11381971 re-release premiere. The restored premiere of THX 1138 generated reactions that puzzled even seasoned projection staff. As soon as the film moved into its stark, white void sequences, viewers began reporting an unsettling drifting sensation like the walls of the auditorium had dissolved into brightness. A number of attendees said the characters seemed to float in a space extending far beyond the edges of the screen, as if the image were no longer confined by its frame. This was accompanied by a low, vibrating hum that several people felt in their ribs, though the booth meters showed no unusual audio output. Some audience members also described hearing faint murmuring beneath the computerized dialogue, whispers too quick to understand, present only for a moment before fading. These sounds do not exist in any documented mix. Projectionists, after checking the equipment, confirmed that everything operated normally, yet many present swore the audio carried an unnatural resonance, an undertone that felt more like pressure than sound. What troubled the studio most were scattered reports of a sensation of being watched from behind, occurring during a long, static shot of the white surveillance chamber. Multiple viewers claimed they could not shake the feeling of unseen eyes trained on them from the blank expanse of the scene. No lighting reflections or structural anomalies were found inside the theater. After the premiere, the studio modified several frequency ranges in the sound mix and made minor adjustments to brightness, though they never commented on the unusual audience reports. Those who attended maintained that this early re-release print contained a presence, a subtle force woven into the audio-visual fabric that vanished in later versions. Fact 13. The Andromeda Strain, 1971. The first premiere of the Andromeda Strain caught audiences off guard with a kind of discomfort that seemed strangely physical. The film's sterile laboratory settings, bathed in harsh, clinical lighting, created an atmosphere that viewers described as suffocating. Several attendees claimed to feel a metallic tang on their tongues during the examination of the alien organism, while others reported a subtle, static-like crawling across their arms as though the air inside the auditorium carried an electrical charge. Projection records from one screening reference a brief anomaly in the soundtrack, an unexpected resonance during long corridor shots, perceptible to the audience but not captured by the booth's monitoring system. That night also produced one of the film's most persistent legends, a missing shot involving a lab rat convulsing violently just before an alarm sounds. Multiple viewers insisted they witnessed this moment, yet no such footage appears in any version of the film, nor in its known outtakes. Following the premiere, Universal made small but immediate adjustments to the color balance and audio levels, citing concerns about intensity. No explanation addressed the testimonies of those who remembered scenes that officially never existed. To this day, some attendees remain convinced that the premiere print contained an unintended fragment, something unsettling that vanished once the edits were made. Fact 14. Altered States 1980. The earliest screening of Altered States left attendees shaken not by the film's narrative, but by the overwhelming sensory effects produced during key sequences. The rapid light oscillations and hallucinatory visuals were already intense, yet viewers claimed the images triggered reactions that went beyond simple overstimulation. Some described a pulse-like flicker in their peripheral vision, synchronized uncannily with the film's experimental soundscape. Others said the low-frequency drone during the isolation tank scenes felt as though it passed directly through the body. The climax produced the most consistent anomalies. A sudden burst of strobing light caused an entire section of the audience to recoil simultaneously, as if reacting to a physical jolt. Projection staff later recorded that a brief shimmer crossed the image during this moment, a distortion not present during previous calibration tests. Audio technicians checked their equipment and found no glitches, though several viewers reported a rumbling undertone they swore was not part of the score. A particularly persistent rumor revolves around a shadowy figure glimpsed behind the main character during the final transformation, a figure missing from every archived edition of the film. Crew members dismissed the claims, yet early screening notes mention unexpected visual interference that was never publicly explained. In the days that followed, sound levels were adjusted and brightness reduced in specific scenes. Officially, the changes were made to improve viewer comfort. Unofficially, some believe the premiere captured a version of altered states that revealed more than intended. Fact 15. Brainstorm 1983. When Brainstorm premiered, no one expected the audience to respond as though the film's fictional machine designed to record human sensation had somehow influenced the real-world screening. Accounts from that night describe an abrupt shift the moment the movie transitioned into its enhanced experience sequences. Instead of a simple visual upgrade, viewers felt a physical tug behind their eyes, a strange internal pull as if their perception had momentarily misaligned with the screen. A number of guests mentioned a faint ringing that didn't match any sound in the theater, a vibration sensed more than heard. While projectionists insisted the film played normally, several people seated near the front swore the edges of the frame appeared to stretch, as though the image was trying to expand beyond its boundaries. A few stood up, feeling unsteady, convinced the screen had momentarily surged outward. Reports from that night also mention a fleeting flash too quick to describe seen by multiple attendees, but absent from every official print examined afterward. Studio technicians quietly re-equalized portions of the soundtrack following the premiere, labeling the adjustments routine calibration, though they never specified what was changed. Some who witnessed the original version later said the final cut felt strangely muted, as if some sliver of sensory energy had been removed. To this day, those who were present maintain that the premiere of Brainstorm carried a quality unlike any later screening, a version of the film that seemed to interact with its audience in ways no projector should allow. Bonus fact: 2001, A Space Odyssey, 1968, unreleased Cinerama test screen. Before 2001, A Space Odyssey cemented its reputation as one of cinema's most enigmatic masterpieces. An early Cinerama test screening took place quietly, privately, and under conditions that remain only partially documented. Those few who attended described a viewing experience that felt strangely intrusive, as though something within the film reached out beyond the screen. During the Dawn of Man sequence, several viewers reported that the air thickened around them, creating the sensation of moving through a viscous atmosphere. Some described a faint, almost imperceptible vibration beneath their seats each time the monolith appeared, a low, physical resonance no one could trace to the theater's sound system. The reactions were even stronger during the Stargate sequence. While later audiences found it visually hypnotic, this early cut produced an overwhelming cascade of sensory effects. Attendees spoke of feeling disoriented, as though the images were bending at the edges or subtly changing shape depending on where they focused. A few swore they glimpsed blurred faces hidden among the rushing forms, faces absent from every surviving version of the film. One guest left the theater in near panic, claiming she recognized a fleeting landscape that flashed on screen for a fraction of a second, a place she insisted she had seen only in dreams. The silence that followed the tunnel of light reportedly felt unnatural, an emptiness that lingered in the room for several seconds before the soundtrack resumed. Projection notes reference density fluctuations in the image, though the wording provides no technical clarity. Within 2 days, Kubrick trimmed the sequence, rebalanced the audio, and removed unspecified shots. Official accounts attribute these modifications to pacing concerns. Unofficially, those who witnessed that test screening say the original cut produced an intensity of reaction that could not be allowed into the public release, a version of the film that pressed too close to something audiences were not prepared to confront. What unfolded across these premieres were not simple technical quirks or momentary lapses in projection. They were disturbances etched into the history of each film's very first encounter with an audience. These traces, subtle yet undeniable, have been scrubbed from official records and buried beneath decades of remasters, re-edits, and polished restorations. But the memories linger, the testimonies survive, and the remnants of those nights still whisper from the corners of forgotten screening logs. If you want to uncover more of these hidden histories, more anomalies erased from the public eye, more fragments of films that almost slipped into another reality, then stay here, inside Vaulted Futures. Return for the next file. Unlock the next sealed archive.